Good evening. I'm Casey Coane, the Executive Director of our association. Thank you for inviting us to visit with you this evening at your quarterly dinner meeting to talk with you about TRICARE. With me is Anthony Wallis, our Director of Legislation. Anthony has worked on the Hill for many years and is eminently qualified to give you some insight into the ongoing debate between Congress and the Department of Defense concerning TRICARE. Anthony?
Thank you, Admiral. Good evening. I'm Anthony Wallis, the new Legislative Director here at AUSN. I'd like to thank you first for inviting us to speak to you and also for taking an interest in this important issue. As you know, the Department of Defense is being subjected to mandatory budget cuts, known as sequestration, totaling $500 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. DoD over the past few years has claimed that the military healthcare system and overall personnel compensation has grown by 90% since 2001 and is unsustainable for the near future. This, coupled with sequestration, resulted in DoD proposing a drastic change in the President's budget request for fiscal year 2013 to the TRICARE system in order to take the burden off of DoD. Unfortunately, this burden is being shifted to our service members and our retirees. Under the new proposed plan, the Pentagon would get the bulk of its medical program savings by targeting under 65 and Medicare-eligible military retirees through a tiered increase in annual premiums over the next 5 years based on yearly retirement pay. The plan calls for increases between 30% and 78% in TRICARE annual premiums for the first few years, and for 5-year increases after that, ranging from 94% to 345%. Also part of the plan is to force an annual fee for the new TRICARE for Life plan, of which many TFL beneficiaries are already paying a Medicare Part B fee as well. For example, according to congressional assessments, a retired Navy captain with a family currently paying $500 a year for health care will have to pay something around $2,000 for that very same care. Ladies and gentlemen, we can all agree that there are some very serious concerns about the military's retention and recruitment abilities if these proposed cuts move forward. A change in the TRICARE system is not the only proposal on the table by DoD, but also proposing to change the pharmacy prescription copays as well. Under DoD's plan, for example, copays for generic retail prescriptions would increase from $5 to $9 over 5 years. Brand retail prescriptions from $12 to $34 over 5 years. Generic mail order prescriptions would increase from $0 to $9 over 5 years. And brand mail order prescriptions would increase from $9 to $34 over 5 years. All of these proposals are extremely harmful, not only to you, who have already answered the call to duty, but also to the young men and women deciding whether to enlist or receive a commission in the armed services.
Last year, AUSN spent the majority of our time on Capitol Hill fighting to preserve your TRICARE benefits. After much discussion and deliberation, Congress was able to place a cap on the TRICARE fee increases proposed by the Department of Defense. So for this year, TRICARE fee increases are capped in association with the annual cost of living adjustment, or COLA, percentage for retirees. AUSN and the Military Coalition feel that this was the best compromise possible to work with the Department of Defense and limit the increasing costs while at the same time not placing all the burden on our military retirees. Now the Department of Defense is backtracking on that compromise reached just last year by proposing in the President's FY13 budget even more TRICARE fees next year. It is an about-face move that will remove the COLA cap protection just put in place, and TRICARE rates will increase, as Tony has mentioned, at an astronomical pace. DoD would now propose an open-ended TRICARE fee index. After careful consideration of these proposals, AUSN feels that such a fee increase index would severely hamper a retired military person's ability to care for him or herself and their family. Going against the promises made to you when you made the commitment to serve. The country may now ask you to increase the amount that you pay for your quality of life by 3- or 4-fold. Any amount of increases in the current TRICARE plan should be made only after very careful consideration of the many sacrifices that are made in a 20 or 30-year military career. Additionally, as Tony mentioned, AUSN has taken the position that incentivizing our retirees and beneficiaries to utilize online mail-order prescription drug services was a reasonable effort, a reasonable place for the Department of Defense to go to try and limit increasing costs. However, the proposed TRICARE co-pays for pharmacy for this next year, the increases are incredibly too high.
Already, beginning this October for the next fiscal year, what used to cost a single retired service member $230 for a year of earned health care security will now cost $269.28. That number for a retired service member with families, which I'm sure is a large majority of this chapter, will rise from $460 to $538 a year. These rates reflect the congressional compromise made last year, which the TMC agreed with, tying the increases in rates to COLA. And while some may see the fee increases as fair, doable, or possibly even unfair, the alarming truth is that the rate increase would get substantially worse if DoD is able to put in place new TRICARE fee increases. Not only would your TRICARE Standard, Prime, and TRICARE for Life policies be subject to heavy fee increases, but your pharmaceutical copays would suffer as well. As it currently stands, the Senate has yet to take a stance on DoD's proposal to severely increase the amount of pharmaceutical copays you and your family might soon be subject to. Under DoD's plan, copays for both retail and mail-order medications would continue to rise annually at the proposed unprecedented levels. The Senate's non-commitment in its version of the NDAA S. 3254 in Section 702 to pharmacy copays means they wish to either 1. Address it in the conference committee between the two chambers of the House and Senate, or they wish to go along with DoD's proposal. However, the Senate did address the over-the-counter drugs can be placed on the uniform formulary for eligible covered beneficiaries if it is found cost-effective and clinically effective. The House, on the other hand, in its FY13 NDAA, H.R. 4310, in Section 718, explicitly set certain prices for generic, formulary, and non-formulary medicines. They also added that any increase in copays in future years would have to equal the percentage by which retired pay is increased, tying it to COLA as was agreed upon last year, and effective 1 October 2012. For example, the rate for retail generic medication would increase from $5 now to $5.62 in 2017, a modest and reasonable increase that the House has proposed.
AUSN supports the House's effort to lower the cost of pharmacy copays for retirees under the TRICARE system. However, we will continue to monitor this. Updates are expected when the House and Senate Armed Services Committee come to conference later this fall. We share the Armed Services Committee Chairman Buck McKeon's approach to the TRICARE situation as he stated, and I quote, "We shouldn't ask our military to pay our bills when we aren't willing to impose a similar hardship on the rest of the population. We can't keep asking those who have given so much to give that much more," unquote. AUSN wholeheartedly agrees with Representative McKeon's position, and we believe that our nation's retired service members deserve better than that. AUSN will continue to be proactive and to lead this discussion. We are committed to being fair, reasonable, and firm. Thank you for again inviting us to speak with you this evening. Good night.